start to put tension on my string drawback, I was like, okay, I'm gonna switch.
It's him. You can look at the horns when he's dead. I'm in the zone. Let the arrow go is perfect.
When they lose their front shoulders, that's how you know there's smoke.
Went about 5-10 more yards. He probably went 20 yards total. Stepped over, tried to get back up. I saw him fall up.
We rushed 4 years rods that night. We got like 156 and something like that. And then the next day we came out to 163 even.
You're listening to the White Cat Outdoors podcast, bringing you to the table where we talk about the outdoors.
What's going on, guys? Episode 102 of the White Cat Outdoors podcast. Good talking to everybody. Another deer camp series coming at you. Nick's sitting on the mic. Didn't shoot a deer.
Nope, I didn't.
Me either. So our guest, my father.
Slackers.
Yeah, we are slacking.
Frank's big time slacking right now.
I am. I haven't. You killed a doe at least, but I haven't done anything. But Dad, you killed a buck.
Yes, it did.
Was it? It wasn't the first. Was it the first? No, it wasn't the first day. It was the
second day.
Second day. Yeah, because
Sunday hunting.
Sunday hunting.
Yes,
How
it
about
was.
that?
That's got to feel good. Finally
yeah.
being able to hunt Sundays.
I'm a huge proponent for it, only because
The government shouldn't tell you when you can
hunt. I don't like the government telling me about anything, but no, I just, for some of us, Sunday's the one day off of the week we get.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that are slow to change and they don't like it, because
I haven't heard a single good argument against Sunday hunting.
Yeah.
The
one argument I hear all the time, and it makes no sense to me, is people will tell you, well, a lot of people don't realize you've got to have written permission to hunt Sundays on someone's property. And
I did see that.
Right, and that's the way it reads. But if you read the book, you've got to have written permission to be on anybody's property at any time.
Yeah.
So I don't know why they make such a big issue out of the Game Commission basically doing nothing more than reiterating the importance of having written permission to be on someone's property, especially if you are Sunday hunting. But, but to follow the letter of the law to the
You should always have that note.
You should always have, if I'm on your property, Nick, I should have written permission.
Well, I wonder, because it's not spelled out like super clearly, which nothing in the game book is.
No, if you read enough, they're going to find contradictions.
Well,
on
there's
anything.
a disclaimer at the end that these are only a
Suggestions.
overview of all the rules for complete.
Please go to this.
So I guess, I always, like I said, there's always like discrepancies and stuff. And technically, I only have one piece of property that's in New York that's actually in my name. So technically, do I have to have a written permission slip from my dad or my grandpa to hunt? Like, it's
technically yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
It's a weird.
Correct.
Good thing I keep that in my pocket.
Right. and honestly,
on this fictional
I don't know.
podcast.
I have not heard of anybody yet being stopped and
Asked
to
for
show
it.
that written permission.
Yeah, I think it would be different if it was somebody that's not family. I could see.
And it's probably also one of those things, if you're not doing anything wrong, they're not going to ask as many questions. But
Yeah, that's a good point.
You start screwing up out there and doing something you're not supposed
Say,
to.
by the way,
if there's a mineral
Yeah.
block within 60 yards of your
Correct.
stand, they're also going to ask, "Oh, is your name on this property? Oh, you don't have a permission."
Where's your written permission to be here?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, the only argument I've heard with Sunday hunting, the deer need a day of rest, which I think is below.
Tuesday and Wednesday.
I've said the same thing.
Well,
Yeah,
and they do most of the time. There's not near the hunters in the woods throughout the week.
Okay,
Monday,
put it this way:
Tuesday,
I
Wednesday,
hunted
Thursday.
I hunted all day Wednesday and all day Thursday this week because my work just switched shifts, so now my weekends are Wednesday, Thursday.
Yep.
Hunted all day both days. I heard a total of 3 shots
Yeah.
in 2 states. I hunted.
Yeah, there's just not the pressure during the week because everyone's at work. And even the people that do get out of work, like I get out at 2:00. And I'm one of the very few people that get out early enough to go out in the evening and hunt.
Right.
And I hardly hear any shooting during the week, just because most people work until 5, and it's dark at 5:20 is the end of shooting hours right now.
Yeah. And then the other one was more towards public land, but the bikers and hikers and stuff need a day to use the woods. 2 arguments for that. They have all year and 2, they don't pay for those properties.
Yeah.
Correct.
So, like I said, I've not heard they could have skin in the game if they paid for permits.
Yeah.
But
I
they're
would be
not.
fine with hearing their argument if they paid.
Yeah, but right now, like it goes in ear one out the other because if you're not
It's not
paying
your
for that
property.
public property.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm with you 100%.
So I was really excited to hear that you got a buck on that Sunday, which it just proves how well
More
that worked
power
out for
to
you.
Sunday hunting.
Yeah. So I guess probably just we got to jump into the actual buck story because like I haven't heard much about this deer. I haven't even seen. Actually, I did get one picture of it, 2 pictures,
Yeah.
but I don't want to give them away because it's kind of an interesting story. So I got 2 separate pictures to put the deer together.
But it really wasn't anything overly exciting.
You have to embellish.
Well, I do. Well, we'll get to that, and I'll explain myself a little bit. But so I was working my way up to where I wanted to hunt that afternoon, and I was getting up.
So did
there.
you see much in the morning, or did you hunt the morning?
I'm trying to think of where I was at in the morning. No, I didn't. I hunted a different piece of property in the morning, and I left there to go up to another lease that we have, and it was the same lease that I had hunted all day long Saturday, and had nonstop deer.
So you were texting me all day
All
long.
day long, I had
Never
something.
stopped.
Yeah.
Sounds like my dad. He
Always
had-
had deer. Now they weren't always deer that I could shoot, but I was overlooking a big clear cut, so I could see a long ways.
Yeah.
Couldn't shoot everything I could see, but I could see a lot. So, you always had something to glass at. You had things to look for when you
Makes
couldn't
the day
see it.
go fast.
Oh, it made the day so much better. It was a very entertaining day. I think I saw 6 or 7, 8 bucks that day. Half of them legal, half of them not. And like I said, nothing exceptional. But just a fun day hunting. You were entertained all day long. And when you're trying to sit from 6:30 in the morning till 5:30 in the evening,
It's a long day.
it's a long day in a metal tree stand without a roof over you if the weather's not so nice. And
Yeah.
so I had something to look at. But I left there. I went to another stand in the Sunday morning, hunted for a few hours, and decided to go back up to that other property, sit in a little bit different area. So rather than just walk in, it's
midday
it's a
now.
clear cut area midday. But I thought, with the way I saw deer the day before, I'm going to hunt my way up to where I want to sit for the evening, and just kind of
Yeah, with all those
Kind of
tops and
still
the
hunt a
clear
little
cut.
bit spot stock kind of style all the way to the top.
Because there was always something you could kind of glass down, get to a point where you could look into some of those old tops and stuff like that. So I'm just kind of picking my way up to where I wanted to get to, and I finally get to the spot, and I'm just doing a quick glance, just to.
Get lay of the land.
Can I see anything with my eyes real quick moving? There's snow on the ground, so any
Locate
deer,
that one leaf that's going to look like a deer's ass for the rest of the night.
Yeah. And then as I'm kind of just scanning around and stuff and letting my eyes slow down, I happen to look down, and not 60 yards from me, 50 yards from me, down the hill in a little draw.
He was standing up on a sawdust pile where they had the sawmill.
Oh, you
Yes.
showed me the
Yeah,
picture.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's just a 12-foot tall pile of sawdust is all it is.
And that's
It's impressive.
And it was blown up against some old soft maples. So there was like a clump of 3 trees that you could crawl right in the middle of. So you had a rest for your gun. You had a little bit of something to break up your pattern, and you could see for hundreds of yards. And
Sounds like a perfect rifle spot.
Yeah,
it really is. It really is. So you always had a different place to look, and I mean, you had to be busy looking around because something could come literally from any direction. Mm-hmm. So I'm sitting up there, like I said, I'm just starting to slow my eyes down, and I start to look, and I look down in the one draw below me, and I see a set of antlers sticking in this clump of tops.
Unmistakable at first, or were you wondering if it might be your eyes tricking you because there's so many blowdowns?
No, as soon as I saw it, I knew
Okay,
it was
so it was
I knew
unmistakable.
It was antlers.
Okay.
I didn't know what, I didn't know exactly how big it was, but I mean, it was.
It's
It's a deer.
Your eye caught it, you knew immediately.
Yeah.
That's a
It's
set
funny
of
how
antlers.
there's so many things out there you think are deer, but when you see actually a deer, it's unmistakable.
Yeah.
And
you'll
there's a
trick yourself
difference.
every time when you see that maybe thing.
Yeah, but when you do see it for sure, it's never a mistake. It's
Yeah.
100%.
Right. So, but it's all balled up in this bunch of tops. And the first thought that went through my mind when I saw it was, I think I just found that archery deer that a buddy of Whitey's.
Yeah, neighboring property, a guy had wounded one in archery, and they went looking for it. It ran onto our property, and
basically in that exact line to where I was at.
Yeah, and they ended up not finding it. So,
which I mean, it sounds like that kind of terrain, you'd have to step on it to find it.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. I said what made it stick out for me was the snow on the ground.
Yeah.
So
during archery,
yeah. During archery,
you got the brown sawdust everywhere,
green, and it would have been green brush and leaves, and
Yeah, you'd have to kick it.
They would have actually, because when I went to get the deer after I shot it, I had to almost had to go back and look again to
find where he was.
Find exactly what brush pile was he again. But so I looked down at him, and I'm thinking, I just found Eric's deer, that his father-in-law shot, and I'm looking at it a little bit closer, and it's just I can see the horns, and the more I look and I get my binoculars on it, I can kind of make out part of the body a little bit, and I can see the ears just kind of flopped out flat, and
So how long are you looking at it at this point? Like
20 seconds.
Oh, okay. You're still
so
right.
Okay. I'm just at a first glance, and I'm like, I think I found that deer they wounded. So I start looking around again. I'm back to hunting. Kind of wrote it off. Just that
found a dead buck, and
so then glancing, starting to glass a little more in particular. Looking at things a little closer, and your brain's always
thinking about
that deer down there.
You have a deer in sight, even though it's dead. You're like, oh.
Yeah, so I start looking at it again, and got the binoculars on it and staring at it, and now I'm starting to figure out, okay, that's the body going that way, and so he's kind of laying with his body pointed at me, but
like his chest, or
his tail's away from me, his chest is to me, but his head is folded around,
like behind
back
him.
Towards his stomach. With his head pointed away from
kind
me.
of like
a sleeping dog.
Okay.
And I'm looking at it going, that's not the way a deer lays when it's dead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
something's not right.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, maybe it's just because
usually they,
such a
legs
gobber.
straight out.
Yeah, right. The head's laid out on the side and stuff, and I'm looking at it going, God, it looks like it's balled up sleeping there. And I'm staring at it. I'm like, well, I don't see its stomach or chest heaving like it's breathing or anything, and it's pretty windy out. I'm like, maybe it's just the way it's because it's in such a thicket, in that tree top.
Maybe you're
and at this point you haven't seen it move or anything. So
no, nothing's twitched or nothing. So I'm back to glassing again. The hell with that deer. It's just another dead deer in the woods. And I start looking around again, and my brain won't let go that it's not laying there like a dead deer. It's laying there like a sleeping dog. So I go back to it again. Now, I've been here about 15 minutes, all total. And I'm looking at it, and the wind's blowing about 15 miles an hour. And I noticed one of the ears just kind of flicker.
Against the wind.
Well, it just kind of flickered, just a little bit. And I'm like, that
wasn't the wind.
That couldn't have been the wind. He's down too low. He's in all that brush. Mm-hmm. The wind didn't do that. So now I'm really looking tough at him, and I'm thinking, that thing might.
So he's got 2 strikes now. You thought you saw an ear move.
Yeah.
He's not laying like a dead deer should.
So now I'm really paying attention.
He's almost out of time.
And now all of a sudden I see that same ear goes from just laying flat off of its head, it stands up like a little piece of radar antenna and does a 180 back and forth, like he's listening to everything around him, but he never moved. It was just that one ear.
That's cool.
It was cool as hell.
It's like seeing deer do deer things.
Yeah. I mean, it's like the old radar antenna went up and it pointed behind him and just 180'd around, listened.
Built-in security system.
And then laid right back down, and he never twitched. And I'm like, you're alive. So now I'm trying to look at the horns.
Well, so
close.
I just want to touch on that too, because so much about like finding deer in the woods when you're hunting is looking for movement. Mm-hmm. So and
you're not looking for the shape of
the
a
biggest
deer.
Deer's best camouflage is staying still, really.
Correct.
So you're
Same
talking
as you. The best camouflage you have is staying
we've
still.
said that 100 times on the podcast that your best camouflage is to sit still.
Mm-hmm.
I think Fred Bear was the one that said that first, but either way, so basically all he's doing to because he can smell one direction.
Yep.
And everything else he can hear. So all he's doing is taking a 4-inch
They hit
piece
one
and
ear.
just moving it, and he's detecting everything else. There's no, without you, it's lucky that you saw it, really.
It is.
Yeah, if you weren't glassed on him,
At that point, I never would have saw it.
That's what I mean. It's really impressive that how little movement he can use to protect himself there.
Yes. Yep. So now I'm like, okay. Now I got to decide, now it's
Gotcha.
kind of neat because I walked up and caught you in your bed.
Yeah.
Which is, I don't know, there's always this little something about that when you can take one from.
You put him in check in chess, basically.
yeah,
Exactly.
mate.
So I'm looking at him and I'm trying to take a picture of him. And I actually sent Whitey a picture. I said, what do you think? I said, he's not great.
And it's I don't know how far it was, 60 yards or
Yeah,
something
50,
off
60.
a phone camera, and through all the brush, I was like, I literally can't. I could kind of
You
see
see that there's a
ahead.
deer in there.
I was like, I have no idea what you're showing me right now. I was like, what do you think it is? Like, I have no idea.
So I'm looking at it and I'm like, well, he's right there at ear width, maybe just outside of his ears. And looking at it in the tops, I'm thinking, well, his tines look like they're probably 6 to 8 inches long, kind of, And I'm seeing 8, and I'm like, well, there's 9 there. And I couldn't tell if there was a 10th point on the other side. And then next thing I'm like, no, maybe that 9th point isn't a 9th point. Maybe that's a stick, because I'm looking into all that thicket.
Yeah, it's
So-
tough to tell when they're laying in a brush pile
Yeah.
what you're actually seeing on their head.
So I'm trying to decide what I want to do. And I asked him, what do you think? He's like, you tell me. You've got a better look at it than I do.
yeah, you've got.
And then the next thing you know, my trigger finger got the better of me. And I sent back to him.
Yeah,
"Well,
he didn't
I
even
shot
text
it."
me back. He said, well, I shot it. We're about to find out what it is.
I mean, I think we were talking about this before we hit record. Your standards change so much throughout the year, whether it's the gun you're using and maybe the story of you being able to sneak in, within
Yeah.
60 yards of them. I'm sure, maybe it wasn't on the forefront of your thought process, but in the back of your
It
mind,
adds to the hunt.
it added to the you
absolutely.
hunted your way in, you snuck in, you got within 60 yards of his bed, and you're like, oh, this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So, and like I said, and for some reason, I've always had like a little soft spot for it. Anytime I can shoot one out of its bed, I have a hard time passing them up.
it's
like-
tough to do. I
It's
mean,
like, I got you.
I can't say I've ever done it.
You've done it several times. You did it with your biggest buck, actually. You killed out of its bed.
Yep.
Is that your New York one?
Well, I was still hunting. I was walking and hunting when I got that New York buck. That archery buck up there in the wall that I shot before we had
Antler
antler
restriction.
restrictions.
Which is a giant at the time.
Yep.
With,
Yeah.
I was still hunting with a bow when I shot him, standing in his scrape. He was playing with his licking branch and stuff and pawing at the ground when I took him. So that's anytime I can do that, that's I don't know. My standards changed drastically. and I'll admit, I'm the first one to tell you, I had a little buyer's remorse when I got to the deer. I mean, it was like I said,
It happens when you can't test drive it,
17 inch 9 point. I mean, it's not
A
like
nice deer, but not huge.
Yeah, by
it
no means.
sounds like a PA 8 point, with an extra
Yeah,
G4.
exactly. And like I said, I mean, I've killed better deer. I actually passed up better deer in archery season this year, but I don't know. It just felt right to me. So
Yeah, if it gets you excited, you can't go wrong.
right.
So you text
So-
Frank that you shot it.
So I texted him that I shot. I said, I'm going to go down and find out what we got here, and I'll let you know.
At that point, I was like, okay, well, I don't remember what
Were
I
you
was
were you hunting?
No, because it was at like 1 or
1
2
o'clock in the afternoon,
It was
like I
pretty
said.
early because
Yeah.
I was doing something else. I hunted the morning, and then I went to do something else for the midday,
Mm-hmm.
and then I was about to go to that property where he was hunting. I was,
Yeah,
I was
would say it
about
2 o'clock probably.
yeah, because I was dressed when he started texting me, and I was like 10 minutes from leaving the house, and he was like, well, I just shot it. I was like, well, I guess we're dragging a deer instead of hunting.
So
Nope.
mic problems, technical difficulties.
We'll call that good. Just go ahead. Right there is fine. Yep.
We're gonna get it. There we go.
Yep.
All right. So I walked down there to find this thing, and like you said, it's nothing but top. So it takes me actually a minute to figure out which path I got to take to get into the right brush pile to find them. And I get down there and crawl into the brush pile with him to yank them out of there because there was no way I was going to field dress him where he was at.
Yeah.
And I grab hold of one of the horns, and I start to pull him out of there. And as I start to pull him out and get some weight on him, the horn pops off in my hand.
Does a sex change on you?
And to top it all off, when it popped off and his head fell back to the ground, the other one fell off. So now I'm looking at this thing going, it doesn't have any antlers.
Weird.
And I'm sitting there, so I sent Whitey a picture of me holding the 2 antlers in my hand going, things changed.
Something happened.
And so I get him pulled out of there, and I'm looking at him. I'm like, Jesus, that's just too weird. I mean, why would he be losing
It's way
his
too
antlers?
early.
Yeah, way early.
It wasn't even December when you shot it.
Right. So I'm just trying to figure out, now what do I do, And
Like, I know I got strong hands, but I didn't think they were that strong.
no, but they came off pretty. It came off pretty easy.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, it wasn't like I even started to pull the deer out.
Well,
yet.
and like
lift
you
his
said,
head.
when its head fell, it busted the other one.
Busted the other one off,
And they're
fell
clean off at the pedicle, right?
oh yeah,
Oh, it was
there's
bloody.
2
Yeah.
bloody scabs.
Okay.
now. So I'm sitting there and I've got my tag out. Once I get it out, I'm like, okay, so now what do I put on it? We don't have a buck and doe season in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
We have an antlerless season.
Which I don't. Is that like that all over the country? Like in Illinois, Iowa, is it always?
I think it is always antlered and antlerless.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I'm thinking to myself, well, what do I put on this deer for a tag now?
You can't really put it on the antlers.
Technically, the deer is antlerless,
Yeah.
even though I'm holding
Yeah.
him here in my hand.
Well, those are sheds. Those have turned into sheds.
So in the end, in my mind, I shot an antlered deer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have the antlers in my hand. I put my antlered tag on it.
Yeah.
But
But it,
well, I had people tell me, you should have put your antlerless tag on it. You could have kept buck hunting. And I'm like, well,
I shot a buck.
I shot a buck.
yeah,
you know?
you shot a buck, and I don't know, like it's weird to think about because is it different? So you shot him in his bed and he died right there.
Right.
Folded, or he was already folded up, but
Never got out of his bed.
But had you shot him, and he ran off, and you find the sheds like halfway, does that change anything for you? Because it's
Right.
I don't.
I feel like it wouldn't change anything for me personally. I would still put an antlered tag on that deer.
Me too.
But
I would too, but there's
a little bit of gray area, and maybe there's not gray area. Maybe it is straight up spelled out somewhere.
Yeah, we're just
I don't
speculating
know.
here.
But I feel like there's some gray area with that as far as antlered and antlerless goes.
Because you can't technically prove, like, even yours.
Like I
there's
said,
no way to prove.
There's
that,
2 bloody scabs. They weren't broken off. There's 2
Yeah.
bloody scabs. They were shed antlers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So someone easily, anybody else could have
stick those in the pack. I found these walking in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And put their antlerless deer tag on it and continue to buck hunt.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's right because
Well, and if you
there's
think
too many people that don't get to shoot a buck.
Yeah.
Why should I get to shoot 2?
Exactly.
Because I happen to win
it's
the lottery and fall
one-
into this goofy situation.
Yeah.
And it's a piece of property that you lease year after year after year.
Right.
Why would you go in there shooting multiple bucks a year and just only hurting yourself, more with
Right.
by shooting multiple bucks a year? 'Cause
Yeah.
that's not going to be good for the property.
No.
Yeah.
No. But so, like I said, in the end, it got an antlered tag put on it. It was reported as an antlered deer, even though
it was antlerless.
it was antlerless
when
when,
it came
I
out of the
finally drug
woods.
it out of the
Yeah.
woods. But
It poses a weird,
It is,
almost
it
like a
is.
moral ethics thing too. Really, I
Yes.
mean,
Yeah, I think that's more
Well-
what it comes down to. Is it where you stand morally on it? Is this an antler or antlerless?
because
deer?
I really don't, unless the game warden was sitting at your hip,
and watched it all go
you
down.
can't prove either way.
I know some wardens in the area and deputy wardens, and I do want to pose that question to them
Yeah.
the next time I talk to one of them, just to see what
legality of
what
it
their
is.
responsibility and the legalities of it, and what they think.
And I'm sure the legal. I have a feeling like the legal answer and moral answer are going to differ. I think.
I think without
because
a
I
doubt.
definitely
I
think
think
so.
it comes down to there's no way to prove.
No, because
that the
like I said,
antlers were
there
on
is
it.
nothing would have kept me from leaving those antlers hanging in a tree, put my doe tag on it,
Or
my
you
antlerless
can-
tag on it, drag it out of the woods,
And then go
and
find
it's,
sheds.
and in all
Yeah.
technicalities, it's legally tagged.
Antlerless
And
deer.
then go back up and say, "Hey, I found some sheds."
I mean, you could put them. You could have found the sheds on the way in. I mean,
You can make up any
Because-
story you
well,
want at
that's
that
the
point,
other-
but that's where the the morality comes in.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. Had you, maybe say you saw what you thought was a doe bedded there, and it stood up, you shot it and it fell, right where you shot it 5 yards from the bed. You go up there to gut it and you see the 2 antlers laying there.
Yeah.
It's like now you thought you shot a doe.
Correct.
So now what do you tag it?
It just shed its antlers before you shot
so,
it.
Yeah.
So right now how does that affect the morality of what tag you put on there?
That's what I mean. It's like, I thought I was shooting a doe.
I thought I was shooting a doe. I had an antlerless tag.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't have a buck tag at this point. That could be the other thing.
It could be another.
You already shot your buck. You're out there doe hunting. You see a doe or an antlerless deer. All of a sudden, like I said, it came up out of its bed. You shot it because maybe you don't like taking shots while they're laying down, or it was too thick or whatever, and it dies right there. You go to field dress and it's like, oh my God, it's got 2 bloody pedicles and there's its sheds now. So it's just a weird situation.
Yeah. No, it's definitely there's a whole host of scenarios that you could play out in arguments for what to do.
Yeah, and that's why I feel like the law would differ from the moral action.
And I feel like mine might change depending on what I thought it was when I shot it. Depending.
Me too.
Because if I truly thought maybe there's a giant that I've been chasing on that property, and I thought 100% I thought I was shooting a doe, and I'll walk up and it had the sheds laying 5 yards from it. It'd be tough for me to throw a buck tag on it. It really would.
Yeah.
I mean, because I was holding out, and I thought thinking it was a doe. It's a cool, weird thing to debate that maybe other people could either weigh in on, or a game warden would be the best one to talk to.
No, like I said, I do want to. The next time I bump into one of them, I want to talk to them and say, "Hey, I got a question for you."
I know I handled this in as legal manner as possible, but what is the actual reality?
Yeah. How would you look at that situation?
Yeah. It poses some neat questions, but
Yeah,
I think given the scenario you were in, I think you made the right call.
Yeah,
I don't think any game warden could argue with the way you handled it. So
yeah. No, I don't think anytime that you give up your antlered tag.
Yeah, rarely are they going to argue that.
Yeah.
So I think you did right there.
I think I did, and I hope I did. And like I said, I've been told by enough people that I should have saved my antlered tag. But
yeah, most people feel that way because they just want to shoot more antlers.
Want to shoot more bucks. And,
but you're no stranger to shooting bucks.
Right. I just don't think it's right for me to go up and shoot a second one.
No. And how many opportunities of legal bucks have you? How many did you pass that morning? It's
Well,
you're not
the first day I could have shot 2 legal deer.
That's what I mean. So you're not. It's not like you're out there just to shoot the first legal buck you saw. No. So it's not about tagging bucks for you.
No.
So
no. I usually want to shoot a certain buck, or there's got to be something about the hunt that makes it unique,
or a funky rack. I know you got to think for funky racks.
I like goofy racks. And, so there's more to it than just killing a deer for me. There's got to be something else involved
to make the story.
Yeah.
And then actually the story did continue at that point.
Yeah, it pretty much came back full circle to the beginning. Even though the deer wasn't dead, we're almost certain it was the same deer he thought it was. It was just still
but it
alive.
had survived because we go to field dress it now. I get it out.
Oh yeah, we stopped the story at field dress to have that argument.
So now when I start field dressing this animal, I get into the chest cavity, and the right lung is fused to the rib cage.
Like deflated
deflated, hardened.
Oh, wow.
I mean, gristly.
He reached into the chest and he's like, I cannot get a hold of this lung. It's like stuck to the rib cage.
And usually you just slit the diaphragm and. How's that?
You should be good there.
All right.
That way it shouldn't fall into you anymore.
So, so usually once you pop that diaphragm open, the lungs are at least movable until you can get up there and cut the windpipe off.
They're deflated but easily grabbing.
Yeah, you can get them pulled out of there, cut the windpipe off, and the one side I wouldn't move. It wouldn't budge, and it was hard and bristly.
You've done this a fair amount of times.
And so I'm in there with the knife trying to cut something free, and all of a sudden
That's when you start cutting fingers.
green pus comes out.
Ooh.
So there's a sac of infection in there as well, and I finally get the lung out, and the lung is spongified and hard, and
It was clearly not a functioning
was not
lung.
a functioning lung. by no means. And there was still, like I said, that one sack of infection. Now, it didn't stink in any way, like gangrene, but it was definitely a green infection.
Mm-hmm.
But the deer was...
Probably a wound from...
It was healing up. It was healing up. And
Yeah, he was definitely on the backside of the injury.
It is remarkable what a whitetail can endure.
Oh, he was going to make... And when I skinned him out, I could see where the broadhead had gone through the shoulder blade and got into the chest cavity a little bit and damaged that lung. So Whitey had called the guy from the neighboring property and I said, hey, just what side of that deer did you
Just
shoot
a
at? Just out
random
of
question. I
curiosity,
just,
yeah.
you know, I had a dream last night.
You know, and
an
no,
inkling.
we were real. We were,
Oh, okay.
We were, it was like a very open conversation. It's like, well, we still think we found him because
Yeah, he immediately called me after I texted him, and we had gotten him out of the woods, and I walked back in to hunt the rest of the evening. And as soon as I texted him, I was like, what side of the deer did he shoot? And he called me immediately. He's like, I am going to shit if you found that deer. I was like, well, we think we found it, but it was alive.
Yeah.
Yep.
And like I told him the whole story, and he, we got the story straight, and he was like, I'm almost certain that is the deer that he shot. It was the same side, and they originally...
Did you find the broadhead?
No, there was no broadhead.
no, it
So he had an exit through...
No, it went
It, like,
in
skated
and out.
the one side. It like didn't... It wasn't a clean pass through, but it...
So he went through the shoulder.
Through the shoulder blade. I don't
Sliced
think he
the
got,
lung, obviously.
and damaged the lung. And then I don't know
I think
if
it
the
was
deer...
like sort of like a
Did
straight
it come
down
Did it come
shot
back
or-
out?
Yeah, maybe. I
Okay,
don't
so
know.
it stayed maybe attached to the arrow, and he pulled the arrow.
I didn't
Okay.
look that close. I saw the damage in the shoulder blade up high going down into that lung, and it only caught that one lung.
Sounds like the arrow probably came back out the same.
Probably
Yeah.
would be my guess. The deer got a hold of it and pulled it out.
But there was no
That's
part
what-
of the shaft or
That's what made us
broadhead.
find my doe so easy. When she pulled that arrow out,
She started dumping.
blood like crazy.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's a side note. But
So yeah, we still think that it's probably the deer that they had hit in archery.
Yeah, everything.
and it was
up.
you could tell it was like an arrow that went through the shoulder.
Oh yeah, you could see the
three slits.
slice
Okay.
going through.
It
Just
was a
curious-
two blade. You could
Two
see.
blade. Okay, so he was shooting a two blade. Okay.
Well, this one had a two blade damage to it, so I never
Yeah,
even...
you could very clearly tell that it was.
Okay, I'm just making sure that it wasn't like he got hit by a car on that side or something.
Oh no, it wasn't
Okay.
damaged like that.
Okay.
It wasn't damaged like that.
All right, I just wanted trying to, like I said, I didn't see it, so I'm just trying to piece the story together.
So yeah, in my mind, I still think it's probably the one that they had wounded.
Yeah.
And this deer was gonna make it. You know, he was doing pretty darn
Like you said,
good.
he was just bedded up, and
I think if he would have died, it wouldn't have been from the wound. It would have been the winter would have killed
you
him.
said
because
he was pretty malnourished.
It was a small deer.
He was small.
Now, was it
well, he was-
malnourished or just a small,
you
like a
could-
young
you
He
deer?
was skinny.
He
You
was
could tell
skinny.
he
You could
was
tell he was
labored.
working hard to survive.
Okay.
You know, he wasn't like emaciated, but he
Okay.
wasn't. He didn't have that big, thick shoulder.
Did you see ribs through his hair?
No. But,
Okay, so
but
he
you
wasn't
could-
like-
You could tell his spine wasn't as full as it. Like,
Okay.
He didn't look like a ruddy buck. Most of your bucks this time of year are still pretty well muscled.
Their necks all swollen.
Yeah, and he didn't have that look. He
Okay.
looked like he had already gone through winter.
Okay, so he looked like a February, March deer.
He looked like a March deer and still had winter to go. So,
Okay.
Yeah, so I think if I'm
He may have
back
made
and
it.
forth. He may have made it. He may have died.
Man,
but
they're
he
tough
wouldn't
animals.
Have died
Yeah.
from the wound. He would have died from the winter.
I think it maybe would have come down to how severe of a winter we had
Yes,
this year.
I agree.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I still don't think we give them enough credit. They are tough animals.
Tough animals. Yes, they
Yeah,
are.
if you run an arrow through
What,
one
2
of my
months?
lungs, I'm done.
What, 2 months later?
Yeah, it was about
He's-
2 months.
You know,
Yeah. Yeah, and
and you just caught him sleeping. That's the only like. It's not like he was in. Like you say, you just caught him taking a midday nap.
No, and actually, when I started looking around a little bit after I shot him, I could see where he walked up and over that sawdust pile and down into that
Yeah,
gully.
so he was right where you were standing.
Yeah, he kind of walked right past where I wanted
So that
to
looks
stand.
like a good spot to take a nap.
So, but like I said, the whole thing was really interesting. It had a lot of story behind it, and like I said, like Wade said, it kind of went full circle. It went from me seeing it, thinking it was a particular deer that we knew a little history of.
Thinking there's no way that deer's still alive that he shot
Yes,
in October.
and then coming all the way back around to the point where
oh no, it's
after it turns out it probably was that deer. You know,
Wow.
but not dead. It was it was doing its best to stay alive. So
It's incredible.
no, pretty cool situation there.
Mm-hmm. So. Yeah, there's a lot of cool angles on that story, just with the antlers falling off, and the history with the deer from archery season from neighboring properties. It was a very cool story.
Yeah. But so now it's meat in the freezer.
So I know you said there was that small infection. I know Frank said you were going to try some of the meat before you.
It was fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
No, it was fine. No funny taste. No.
Perfect. Yeah, because I asked Frank when typically when you find an infection, you want to be careful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Frank said you were going to take a small piece of the backstrap or something, fry that up
Yep.
before you got too crazy with processing.
Yeah, because if it was bad,
Then
I may have turned it in at that point and said, hey,
I need another tag.
I need another tag.
Because then it comes down to we're not out there, we're not surviving by killing deer, but it's a huge bonus to get the meat.
Deer meat.
That's what I mean.
We eat probably 4 deer a year, 5 deer a year.
Yeah.
Frank needs to start helping if you guys want to do that this year.
I know. Yeah, but we hunt between
There's time.
There is. There really is. We've got till actually, I've still got Ohio tags. We've got till like almost February.
I was gonna say between you and me, we hunt 3, 4, 5 states a year, so we kill plenty of deer, and we eat. By the time next season rolls around, you're like, okay, we need to get killing some deer.
That's how we are. We're like, hey, we finished up the last of the breakfast sausage about a month ago. Like, time to restock.
But we usually end up giving away some meat by the time everything's over.
We've got family that doesn't hunt that I know we always.
Right.
I know you guys do and we do. Hook grandparents up, and I got uncles that don't hunt.
Mm-hmm. Right. So no, we always seem to get our fair share of.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad it was still good for you, because that's where it gets. I would be upset too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah, good deal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I appreciate hearing the story. That's interesting the way that works out, and I still am always surprised with how strong deer really are.
Yeah.
I mean, it just blows my mind over and over. I've seen full pass-throughs where people don't find them.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, our buddy Luke, tracked a deer for 2 days, 900 yards on a liver shot, and it was still alive after 2 days on a liver hit. And it's unbelievable. Liver's not ideal, but it's
usually pretty deadly.
Yeah, it was just their will to survive is one of. And I think almost, especially like in October, November, their will to breed, I think, drives them, keeps them moving, and even more than just survival. Like, because it's just ingrained in them. All they think about is eating, breeding, sleeping. Like, that's really about it.
Yep.
And they just want to do those things. Mm-hmm.
So that's my deer season to this point. I still have my antlerless tags. And
maybe we'll talk you into a New York muzzleloader too.
Yeah, you should definitely get a New York license.
Might just have to happen.
We got cots at the cabin. Ready to go. Tom's warming up camp.
I haven't been up there since you put Shooter's Bar and Grill in.
It's
pretty wild.
You're gonna have to book a night now. It's that crazy. Business just went through the roof when we put up a bar.
Yeah. So I did do a drive-by one day. I was up there getting some materials for.
I didn't even tell Frank about Shooters when I put Shooters in, because I got it from work for free. They wanted me to tear it down, and I said no, I got a place for this. So I put it up there with Jared, our squirrel specialist, and
I think I was in Alaska when you guys did it.
And then Frank and I went up there for like opening day or something, and I didn't say a word. We were just pulling up, and Frank did a double take.
What the hell is that?
Well, that's Shooter's Tavern.
Cracking up.
So
now I'll have to swing up there. The next time you guys go up there, I'll probably have to show up and
good deal.
Check it out.
Food's great. Service sucks.
That's all right. You can't have everything.
Yeah. Usually they make you go outside for your beer, but
we'll blame it on COVID.
Yeah. COVID's got service really slow. Personnel's down. Management sucks. But all right. Well, thank you again.
Thanks for having me.
Coming in, and hopefully maybe Frank will contribute for next week's
Yeah, hopefully. We're running out of time here on rifle season, but we always got late archery. It took you till late archery last year.
It did, yeah.
So.
We did a bonus episode to get me in there because we actually thought it was all over. It was the last weekend. It was the final weekend. We had actually called it on the podcast before. We just assumed it wasn't going to happen. You know, Deer Camp series is over, back to normal podcasting. And then I pulled through and we had to do a surprise bonus. So
Good deal.
I ended last year's and started this year's.
Yeah,
so
you
that
did.
was pretty neat.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, between the two of you, you've got what? 4 buck tags yet? 5 buck tags. You each have a PA back tag.
We each have a PA and 2 New York each.
So you got 6 buck
yeah.
tags.
Yeah, plus if we're counting my Ohio
You
buck
slackers
tag.
better get moving.
Right?
I do have a buck tag in Ohio because I turkey hunted this year. So
There you go.
I have that.
You guys better get off your duffs and
Start doing some hunting.
yeah.
I think I might. You intrigued me with your almost successful stalk the other day.
Yeah, it would have been successful had I not decided.
It was
to
too
not
small of a
shoot.
doe,
Yeah, it
yeah.
was a small doe, but I definitely.
You got me intrigued. I'd like to do it because I've said multiple.
That's a fun way to hunt.
It is very.
I have a problem doing it on small pieces of property I hunt with other people because
Yeah.
I don't want to blow up a piece of property.
Yeah.
Like, our farm that my dad's got, it's like 80 acres.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to go through still hunting and stalking, mid-season and potentially blow up the property. So maybe
You got to pick and choose your days. Don't do it the day everybody's coming in to hunt that evening.
That's
but
true.
If no one's going to come for a couple of days, go through it and do it. 'Cause
Yeah.
you might blow them out of there today,
They'll
but they're
work their
coming
way
back.
back.
they'll come
tonight.
back. Yeah,
They'll
that's
be
a good
right
point.
back in there. It's not like
I guess with my schedule now, I could do that on a Wednesday, and
Yeah.
nobody's going to be there till Saturday.
Yeah.
Whitetails aren't elk. I mean, you don't bump them and they move 4 mountain ranges to
or
the west.
pronghorn that just sprint
right
for miles.
Yeah.
You bump a whitetail and he runs away, and that night he works his way right back.
Yeah, half
into
the
where
time
he
they'll
wants to
circle
be.
right back to their bed anyway.
Yeah.
So.
Exactly.
So I might have to play around with that.
It's fun. It's a good time. I've had a lot of fun the past
I might have
couple
to
days.
set up my slug, my shotgun, because with as thick as it is at the up and climber, it'd be fun to do it with a slug.
Yeah, that would be.
So my grandpa gave me a shotgun years ago it's got a slug barrel that I can put on it. And I've never even put it on.
No.
So
Perfect time to break it out.
yeah, maybe I'll have to sight it in this week just in
See what
case,
happens.
just in
Yeah.
case. Because I haven't gotten one with a shotgun. I always thought that'd be cool.
That one was a shotgun.
You've got a couple with a shotgun.
Yeah.
That's still one of the top bucks that come off that farm.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say top 3,
No kidding.
being number 3.
Mm-hmm.
But still,
I'll take it.
yeah, that's. When the top one is around 160, to be in the top 3 is still pretty.
Yeah.
No, that was a fun hunt that day.
A lot of deer died.
Yeah. There was a lot of deer died that day.
And a coyote the day before, right?
Yep, coyote the day before. Don had shot a nice buck that exact same day.
You or my dad get a doe too?
Your dad
Your
did.
dad
Yeah,
did.
yeah. He actually got that one mounted because he, for whatever reason, wanted a doe mount in the house, which
I think
it's
they look
tasteful.
nice.
Doe mounts do look, like you said, they're tasteful when
You-
they're surrounded by bucks. They're just slip
Yeah.
in a doe mount.
Yeah, it's not. I don't think, if I ever mount a doe, it'd be one doe, and I'd never do it again unless I got like an albino.
Yeah.
But it would be like one doe, and I just think it looks nice with a big buck next to it.
Just side note, I did shoot one of them out of their bed.
I was just gonna say one of your other.
I didn't
bed
realize.
kills
I
was
knew
an
you
albino.
have an albino
Yep.
that.
Shot an albino doe
Is still
out
at
of
the
her
tannery.
bed with my bow.
Yeah, and I think all you have is a picture of it.
All I have is a picture. The taxidermist accidentally threw the cape away.
Accidentally.
And how many more deer have you taken to that taxidermist?
That was the last one.
Yeah. And how many people have you recommended to that taxidermist?
Yeah, that was the last one. No, he was actually a good guy. He had some health issues, and
It's just
I
don't know if it got
It was
thrown away.
unfortunate, but he didn't do it on purpose. It was an accident.
Do you think you know the full story?
Yeah, I do. Like I
Okay.
said, I do believe it accidentally got thrown out. I don't think there was any malice, anything like that. I think
Okay.
it was just sometimes things happen, and you got to pick and choose what to get upset with in life, and
Yeah.
that's not a big enough thing for me to get.
Too bad.
You could
out
always
of shape
you
about.
could always
Right.
bleach a hide.
Yeah. This isn't the one, but I
No,
did.
I could actually, if I wanted to, I could go buy an albino doe hide And
Yeah, I guess you could if you.
you know,
I mean, but
they're available. It's not like I couldn't get one and I
Yeah.
could have it mounted and say,
That's not it, but I did do it.
but yeah.
I mean, and I don't think anybody could really question that. I mean, if you've got pictures
Actually,
with it.
There's a lamp made out
There's
of
a
the
lamp
feet.
made out of the feet.
Oh, I did hear that there is
Yes.
one piece.
Yep, I gave the feet to a friend of mine, and he made a lamp out of them. And so, to my knowledge, that still exists. So somebody's got a piece of it.
Yeah.
Cool. I didn't realize you got her in her bed.
Yep. She thought she was hiding in a goldenrod field,
Yeah, but
but
Didn't quite blend
like a
in.
snow patch in October.
that's what it looked like. The funny thing was, when I shot her, like 6 deer blew up out of that field
You never saw.
that I never knew were there. I was so focused on her,
No,
never even knew those other ones were there.
we're moving on from your buck here. Did you know of that albino in the area?
I was going that day. I specifically told my brother, we'd seen her for like 3 years,
Okay.
and I told my brother Mark that day. I said, "Hey, I'm going for the albino today. I'd already shot my buck. I said I'm gonna try to get that albino. I said I know where we've been seeing her, and I'm gonna go.
Got a good
after her
idea where she
today."
probably
And he looked
beds.
at it. He goes, "Well, good luck." And I left his house. It was 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, whatever. And I was walking into where I wanted to go, and I saw her just 300 yards up in this thin goldenrod field out in front of me. And
You're like, holy shit.
I'm like, crikeys, there she is, and I'm looking it over. Well, she wasn't, the field kind of had like this low draw full of old crab apples and an old apple orchard and stuff on the side of it. And I'm looking at where she's at, and she's only like 25 yards off of the fence row that separates all that brush from that field. And I'm like, geez, all I got to do is drop down into this low draw, walk up to that point there.
Obviously, the wind was in your favor to
Wind
do this.
was going to be perfect for all this, and I was going to be down below her. I could stay hidden for my walk. I just had to stay quiet. And then all I had to do was work my way up the side of the hill to the fence, and she was going to be 25 yards. And so I'm kind of looking at it. I'm picking out my trees that I need to get to, and my landmarks, so that I knew where I'd have to be, because once I drop down in there,
You
can't see her.
I'm not going to see her until I get
Till you're shooting her.
so I'm not really going to know if I
And
blew
knowing
this
you,
up.
your bow range was probably 25 yards.
That's 25 to 30 yards. It's
Even
usually-
back then was still.
Yeah,
okay.
that's where I draw the line. 25. 30
I didn't know
yards.
if back then it was even shorter than what you call now.
No, it's
I mean, technology hasn't changed that much. It really for a compound.
no. I did enough shooting that I was always confident out to that distance, and we used to shoot a lot further. We do a lot of
Oh,
field
yeah.
archery practice.
We
and
still
stuff
do the
like
same.
that, but I just won't shoot at a whitetail that far because there's just too many weird things happen.
Yep.
So, but and not that you can't. I mean, obviously the equipment's more than capable of killing them.
It's just
Whitetail are so
you
flighty.
can't predict what it's
Right.
going to do.
I like to minimize my chances for bad things to happen.
Yeah.
So,
Anyway, so you're
so I dropped down in there, and I spent the next half hour just trying to walk as quietly as I could for 300 yards. And
okay. So it took a half hour to cover.
yeah,
the
I
300?
just had to
Okay.
pick and choose my way, and I just real slow.
Were you paying attention to like wind gusts to make moves or anything?
I knew I had the wind. In
No,
my
I'm saying
favor.
for like
To
sound.
cover my sound. No, I just tried to walk as quietly as I could.
I guess you said it was like a field, so you.
When
right.
I was walking, it was like an old apple orchard. It had some crab apples in it, some old apple trees.
It was
and
like
stuff.
kind of like
So
a grassy
there
bottom.
was stuff that I could pick my way through. There was
And be quiet
There was
on.
old deer trails through there. Stuff. There
So
was.
like, yeah, matted
I could
down.
pick my way through on a pretty quiet
Okay.
trajectory. And the big thing I had to do is just make sure I got to a certain point that when I started working back into the deer, I was working straight up the hill and as quiet as I could. And as I got up there, I mean, they were all still, I could still see her. I still didn't know there was all those other deer there.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time I could see her, I still had to get up just to, another 15 feet. And that was the longest part of the whole thing, was trying to get that last little bit
Now,
so
are
that I was
you
up high enough.
crawling or how are you doing this?
Just stepping.
Okay,
And
so you're standing up.
Yeah, well, until I got to that last little bit, then you're kind of hunched up and.
I'm assuming you already have an arrow knocked at this
Oh
point.
yeah,
like
but,
probably on the string, ready
yeah.
to.
Well, I didn't have my release on, but the arrow was knocked, and I mean, you're doing everything you can to just get that last few feet so that you got that clear path, and
You can see what way she's looking at this point too. Like
you
can see her head.
She was pretty much quartering away from me, and she was looking away from me. They were all looking into the wind.
which is what
that's
odd
what they
kind
do.
of. Well,
Yep.
not necessarily. I mean, like a big buck, a lot of times will put the wind the opposite way so he can smell
see
what's
and
behind him
smell.
and see what he can't smell.
Yeah, but they were kind of watching, and like I said,
But I don't think doe and
Didn't-
bucks bed in the same places for the same reasons either.
Yeah.
and like I said, I really didn't know that there was all those deer there.
You just saw one
I'm
big white
focused
one.
on her, and but she was looking dead away, and I'm just assuming everybody else was too, because with that many sets of eyes,
Someone would have seen
you would have if someone was looking my way, I'd have been done.
Yeah.
And but I finally got to where I could come to full draw and poked her, and off she went, and that was when all the deer come out, and I was like,
Holy
"Crikey,
shit.
look at all them deer." But the other ones were all
Monster
blending
buck.
in pretty good.
Yeah, she stood out just a little bit.
So you were, what, 25 yards when you
About
shot?
20 I think it was like 27 yards when it was all over said and done, 28 yards, something like that. But it,
pretty close to sneak up on a deer.
yeah,
Yeah, that's impressive.
yeah. But like I said, everything was perfect. I had the hill to hide me as I got close. I mean, and
Had the wind in your favor.
yeah,
It was,
which is typical of most still hunting situations. Just because you see something doesn't mean you're going to walk over there and shoot it. You've got to have a lot of factors
go in your favor.
go in your favor to make that all happen. And some of those things are out of your control, and you just got to hope you get a little lucky with some of them sometimes. And
It is neat though that you called your shot. Going in like, going into shoot.
well, but she wasn't. I thought she was going to be. I was going in to get across that goldenrod field and get on the backside of that old apple orchard, because I thought she'd be coming from the woods down into that old apple orchard.
So were you planning to try and sneak up on her bedded, or were you setting up to catch
no,
her
I was
coming out?
no,
for the
I was
evening?
going to go up and try to
Intercept her.
Catch her.
intercept her
in.
and
For the
just
evening,
sit in a
basically.
stand
Okay.
and try to get her.
I would still say you called your shot.
Yeah,
Even
I mean,
though-
I was going after her, but I didn't get her the way I was intending to get her that night. And
That's kind of like Babe Ruth calling a shot over center field, and it maybe goes a little left. I mean, you still called it. Still called your shot. Still a home run.
Yeah.
but yeah, I didn't feel bad that I was.
Man, really just wish you would have.
Yeah, it's
circled
really
over-
not the way I wanted to get this deer. I was pretty elated.
Yeah,
bet.
I bet.
So,
Good.
anyway.
That was a good bonus story.
I was going to say a little
So-
bonus deer
Oh
camp.
yeah, reminiscing
So-
about
Yeah.
years gone
I mean, That was
past.
30,
Oh my God.
over 30 years ago. That was, a
That was
long time.
before my
Oh,
time.
yeah, it was before you guys were.
Yeah, because
even
I was
born.
I'm 27, and it was well before I was alive.
I'm trying to think.
It was in the 80s.
Oh yeah, it was
That was 70
definitely. I'm
years
gonna
ago.
say late '80s. It's probably late '80s that happened.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, definitely a good bonus deer camp series. So you get everyone gets a twofer today.
Yeah. So thanks for sticking around this long.
Well, I wasn't trying to take up a bunch of your time, but
Oh,
Yeah.
no, I enjoy hearing that's the whole thing with the deer camp series is like how you don't
Well, you just-
you don't come back to camp and tell one deer story.
Yeah.
Right,
It
yeah.
always leads into another one.
well, no, you guys were talking about still hunting and
Yeah.
spotting and stalking deer and stuff, and it just
So like,
brings
yeah,
up
I
another
still hunt and spawn
ideas.
stock, but I do it on albinos. So
With a bow.
but, no, it's a fun way to hunt.
It
It
is a
really
very, very fun way to
I haven't
hunt.
really done it much, and I think probably not there yet to do it with my bow. I accidentally did it this year with my bow. Was sneaking in to a spot I know I shouldn't have been in. Like not legally, I could be there.
Right.
Not one,
As far as the bucks go, you
as
shouldn't
far
have been
as
there.
where I knew this buck was bedding, I shouldn't have gone there in the evening.
Just got too close.
I got too close, knowing that I was doing that, but we were getting dangerously close to the
You
rut.
got to test the waters a little
Well,
bit.
it was that, and it was just the rut was getting close to where all of a sudden I wasn't going to be able to predict where he was going to be.
Yeah.
And I knew I had just a handful of opportunities left, so I snuck in a little deeper than I wanted to, and I could see the tree I wanted to be at, but it was about 60, 70 yards away. But I knew where I wanted to be. I just crest this knoll, and that buck that I was in there for starts taking off the other way with two doe. I'm like, son of a gun.
Did he see you, or was he?
At that time, I didn't think so. You know, I was like, okay, I think we're okay, but I need to get set up.
Yeah.
I can't get to that tree anymore. I know he came through here. I just got to get set up. So I went to like the first tree. I had one stick on the tree, and all of a sudden I heard some crashing up like right in front of me. So I set my stick down. I grabbed my bow, knocked an arrow. I'm hearing the crashing, and then before I can even really figure out what's going on, 2 doe come busting right by me, like 6-7 yards. And I was like, okay, I just saw that buck chase 2 doe off one way. 2 doe come back through, so I just drew back, and I look up, and that buck's staring at me through these grapevines. He watched me do the whole thing, and he's staring there like 20 yards, you know, like through these big grapevines.
So you had
no shot.
No, absolutely no shot, and he's looking dead at me. I'm like,
maybe he doesn't see me.
so I knew.
Think invisible.
I kept my draw, and I was like, he caught me 100%, and he spun around, and he just like trotted away. It wasn't even like a hard bust out of there. Like he knew he was safe somehow. That's how I looked at it.
Yep.
He just headed the other way, and he did not stop moving until he was about 170 yards away on the other side of the swamp. And then I saw him stop there and look back, and I was like,
gave you the middle finger.
basically, and I have not seen that deer since. But
Damn.
yeah,
That's all part of the learning curve and part of hunting.
yeah.
You know.
Yep.
So it was an accidental from the ground. It wasn't really a spot and stock. It was he spotted me.
He spotted.
Yeah,
I got news for you. I take free ones.
Yeah.
You spend enough time in the woods, and sometimes things just fall in your lap.
Oh, that yeah.
Don't
Take
feel
it.
bad about taking the free ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, because there's a lot more times you get blown up than you get them gifts. So
Yeah.
enjoy the gifts when you get them.
Yep. No, I just looked at it as a learning experience, and I knew, okay, what I thought was happening was actually happening.
Yeah.
So I just look at it for next year, because even if that deer's not there, I know that other deer are going to be in that. And like I said, we've said on the
absolutely.
podcast before, we're still trying to learn this farm because it got logged right before my dad bought it, and it's changed the whole dynamic. So I learned a vital piece of information about that property that day that
Yep.
you know I was able to tell my brother and my dad, like, hey, this is a hot spot around this time because of this terrain. And
Right. Well, and you'll find over time, you're going to find those spots that, here in Pennsylvania, it's not like we get to hunt the same buck for 6 years in a row.
nope.
They just get killed off too fast one way or another. But you're going to find those spots on your farm that big buck, the best buck on your farm, he wants to be in.
And it might only be for a 4 or 5 day window a year.
Right, but but there's going to be times that's where he wants to be,
Mm-hmm.
and then maybe you'll get him. Maybe the neighbor will get him. Maybe he'll get hit by a car. Who knows what?
I've seen
But
all
what-
that happen.
Right, or maybe some yo-ho will
Poach
him
yep.
with a spotlight. But what'll happen is that terrain. He liked that terrain and that spot for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
So the next best buck is probably going to be
He's going to like
somewhere
that
close
same
to
terrain.
that same stuff. And you'll find those spots on the farm that, we need to be here at this time of the year because our best bucks always end up right here
Yeah.
a week before the peak of the rut.
Yep. And that's
You know.
basically what I had put together.
Yeah.
And
it doesn't matter if the best one got killed last year or last week.
Well, and like
the
you
next time there's a good buck, that's where he's going to want to be.
I blew up that hunt there, but
Mm-hmm.
I know next year around the same time, there's probably going to be deer cruising through there again.
Absolutely.
and
And,
so-
it'll probably be some of your better bucks wanting
Yeah.
to be in that same area.
So next year, I will just plan to get in there in the morning
Mm-hmm.
and sit until that afternoon when he starts coming
Yeah.
through there.
Yep.
So, but anyway,
Alrighty. Well, I probably wasted enough of your
Yeah.
time for one night.
it's never a waste. We could keep going for days, but we'll cut it off there and hopefully have another big buck or even a doe to talk about next week. So,
Tomorrow.
yeah.
Tomorrow's the day.
Really? Why do you say?
Somebody's got to go up. If I got to drag someone in time to that spot up there in that clear cut.
Yeah.
Someone needs to be up there tomorrow all day because there'll be a lot of people moving
Pointing at
deer in
you.
the area. And there's a couple of pretty good bucks
Yeah,
up
there's
there
some
that
nice
that I have not heard of anyone shooting yet. in the
Well, why
area.
don't you two go together and then Tom and I have known it's deadly in numbers. Tom and I hunted together twice this year or
Yeah.
three times.
And
We
every
killed
time
4
something
turkeys and 1 buck.
Yeah.
So
So,
hunt together.
I don't know
shit
if he can
dies.
get out of bed in the morning.
Yeah, probably not.
Look at him. What a bum.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we could leave it there. Don't be like Frank and make sure you guys are getting outside.